Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to more Drak vlogs of BlizzCon 2018, where we're going to be taking on next a franchise that's very near and dear to my heart, but sadly over the last few years hasn't really gotten any momentous news, and that is the Starcraft franchise. I'm just going to warn people in advance, this video is probably going to be a little short, as the Starcraft 2 What's Next panel is basically what they had available, and there wasn't much to announce. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We did have new war chests announced that would be able to give new building skins, a lot of which looked very, very cool. I especially like the Techie Zerg skin that they were looking to implement there. We got a new co-op commander, and that is Zeratul, one of my favorite characters in the campaign, and it looks like a lot of his units are going to be using Xel'Naga-based enhancements. So that's going to be very cool to be able to try and unlock for a lot of people. There's going to be tons of big design patches that are going to be happening, along with changes to the Versus games, especially to the end game units, specifically like the Battle Cruiser, the Tempest, and the Nidus network. Also a Ultralisk upgrade that's going to be happening. And then a lot of the time was spent with DeepMind, just kind of showing, if people don't already know this, a couple of years ago, DeepMind announced their partnership with Blizzard, specifically with StarCraft 2, to start working on artificial intelligence. And so the DeepMind guy got a lot of time that I think honestly could have been put somewhere else. I found a bit of it interesting, but in a lot of cases, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest here. This was basically like trying to sit through a science class. So at that point, the downside, unfortunately, was we actually did get a question in the Q&A portion of it that has me rather concerned, as the guy is asking what I basically want to ask. Are there any additional single-player plans for StarCraft 2? And right now, they say that they're working on it. I'm very skeptical in that regard, because if they were working on it, they'd be announcing it. And at this point, they're basically saying that their dedication is more towards Versus and co-op instead of working on additional story packs, even though they could have learned from Nova Covert Ops and be able to do additional missions and additional story that could be done after the events of StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. I mean, I make the joke in the live streams that I would really like the announcement for StarCraft 3, and I know that that's not technically possible given how the story ends, but it would be nice to at least get additional missions, or to get an additional faction to be able to go and follow. Maybe even go into additional Xel'Naga research, as Zeratul is not satisfied. He wants to learn even more. Or, I mean, well, Zeratul's probably not a good example, because I think he died in Legacy of the Void, but having somebody else kind of continue his search, or something to that extent would be more what I want. I'm not saying that the Versus stuff isn't interesting. I do like the fact that they're finally augmenting a lot of those final units. But to me, who plays primarily single player, and I'm not really all that allured into trying out the co-op commanders, this was a fairly boring panel, and not a whole lot there for me to be able to sink my teeth into. So at this point, I can at least say that compared to the Diablo panel, where there was some very evident missteps, and the devs could have definitely handled a lot of the controversy better, I think that the panelists did the best that they could with what they had. There wasn't a whole lot to work with, so they announced all of that stuff, they let the guy from DeepMind have his say, and then they moved on. And so again, that's disappointing, but that's probably the best that we could have possibly expected from StarCraft 2, at least at this present time. I'm hoping that one of the things they take to the office Monday morning is that, we keep on having this demand for single-player campaigns, even if they're small. All we have to do is just kind of figure out what went wrong with Nova Covert Ops. That would probably be the best way to go about it, but until they have that conversation, which I'm very skeptical as to whether or not they are, then nothing really is going to change here. And I wish I could say more on this matter, but that's pretty much going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for your continued love, support, and patience with the channel. I really do appreciate it. And next time, we're going to be taking on the shock announcement at the opening ceremony, which is appropriate since we're talking RTSs, as we take on Warcraft 3 Reforged. We'll see you guys then.